Welcome to the Personal Development Mastery Podcast, your weekly dose of inspiration and growth. Today I have the pleasure and the honor to be speaking with a truly outstanding individual. He is a medical doctor from Houston, Texas, a professional confidence coach, CEO and founder at 10kcourses.com, a public speaker, a knowledge broker, and most recently a speaker and a trainer of the KBB, the Knowledge Business Blueprint course, representing Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi. So, Dr. Wasi Saleem, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm super excited.
So am I, and I will just share with who's listening that I met you virtually through the KBB course, the Knowledge Business or the Knowledge Broker Blueprint. And I want to start, Wasi, just by you giving us a little bit of your background, of your journey, and maybe some milestone moments you've had along the way until you reach this very exciting stage that you are at the moment, which we'll go through in a little bit later.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm from Houston, Texas. I was basically born in Texas, raised here all my life. And most of my family, from my dad's side, they're all physicians, medical doctors. And so growing up, it's something that I wanted to do too. And, you know, it's a noble profession. It's lucrative. You save lives. You get to help people. And so it's kind of the path that I was, you know, I kind of just never thought about doing anything else. It was just like, this is it. I'm going to be a medical doctor in practice, and I'll have a good life, and I'll have a noble profession and make good money, and that's that. And it was sometime in medical school where I started to kind of think more about the things I was interested in. And I was starting to take a lot of interest in psychology and philosophy. And at the time, I really didn't know what life coaching was, that term, or personal development. But what happened was, after I graduated medical school and I got my MD, there was one more board exam I had to take to actually specialize in something and to move forward in my training. And I had a lot of difficulty with that, because what happened was that I had reached a point in life where I was really questioning, is this really what I want to do for the rest of my life? I can definitely practice medicine. I love seeing patients. I love helping people. But is this something I really want to do? Or is there something else out there inside of me that I really want to express or do? And I could feel that there was. I was looking for residencies that had to do with leadership. And there were no residencies that had to do with leadership or teaching or training. And I was just trying to find, a way to, do the things I wanted to do, because I realized I really do enjoy teaching. I do enjoy speaking. I enjoy leading, which is essentially serving. And I couldn't find anything. And that's right around the time where I ran into a guy named Lewis Howes. And I saw the first interview of his on YouTube, which was of Tony Robbins. And my head exploded, because I was like, oh my God, like, who is this guy? I want to be like him. That's when I discovered what life coaching was, personal development was. This was just 4 years ago. And that's where the journey really began for me. And so I spent a lot of, I'd say, the past 4 years kind of just going back and forth, and a lot of confusion. I'm sure a lot of people can relate, because I still wanted to finish what I started with my medical career, but I still really had, I found this new passion of mine where I could go into coaching and speaking and really help people get the results they wanted. And I just, every podcast I could listen to, every YouTube video I could get my hands on, I would just try to take in all of Tony Robbins' content. Then through him, I met people like Dean Graziosi online, and so many other influencers that really had a big effect on me. And I was loving the personal development aspect, but then I also loved the entrepreneurship aspect, which was being able to run your own business and make your own money and doing a living, making a living doing what you love. And so both of those really appealed to me. And this was the year, just a few months ago, 2019, when Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi released a program called the Knowledge Broker Blueprint. And so that's when I decided, you know what? Instead of going back and forth, I'm just going to go all in. I'm going to close the door on medicine once and for all, for now, for the time being. And I'm going to go all in with coaching, speaking, entrepreneurship, and just see where that takes me, see where I can take it. and see how many people I can help and if I can really start a business doing this full time. In
Mm-hmm.
the past, while I was in med school, while I was studying for boards, I kind of coached as a hobby. I started off with confidence coaching about 4 years ago, but then I stopped because, I felt like I need to get serious about my career, and I went back to the medical track. I also met my beautiful wife at the time. And so I just felt like, being a responsible husband and man, the right thing for me to do was to focus on more reliable, realistic things. And so I kind of stepped away from the passions I had of coaching and entrepreneurship, but it never left me because once that bug had bit me, it was always inside of me. And so I'd find ways, even as a hobby, I'd find ways to coach medical students after I did the
Mm-hmm.
confidence coaching. And I wasn't charging much, but I was just doing it for fun because I just enjoyed helping people. And it was great practice for me too. But like I said, a few months ago is when I really went all in. I closed the door on the healthcare track and I decided to go all in as a coach and as an entrepreneur. And by the grace of God, things just blew up. I mean, they just took off, and, it's been absolutely incredible.
And I think that's a sign that you're on the right path when you have this kind of amazing events happening one after the other. And I can certainly relate with what you said about listening to Tony Robbins for the first time, and because for me as well, it was the catalyst in my personal development journey when I attended his event in London a few years ago.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, I was having a look at something you wrote about confidence, especially it was some of the myths that are common about self-confidence.
Yes.
And there was one that I particularly enjoyed, and I wanted a quick comment from you about that. It was that there is the association by society that our self-worth, our self-confidence is connected or related to how well we look or how much money we make, which is something that I think many people suffer from, and it is something that they can't let go. So what's your thoughts on that as an ex-confidence coach?
Yeah. I still teach self-confidence in all my business coaching. I mean, that's something that a lot of people need even to start their own businesses. And so, one thing that I'll say is that I think as a society, just human nature, obviously everyone likes looking at good things. And we have this, societal, rule of who's attractive and who's not. And obviously everybody wants to be wealthy and they want to have abundance in their life financially. And so those are things that are positively looked upon, and there's nothing wrong with that. Those are beautiful things. But the problem is when, if you don't feel like you look your best, or you feel like you're not making as much money as you want to make, that you're less than someone else, or that you're inferior to someone else. And I think that happens a lot. It happens a lot in our society. I think, a lot of the men and women in today's world with social media and our ability to compare ourselves to others, it can be a beautiful thing because it can inspire us, but then it can also be negative because it can make us feel like we're not doing enough or making enough or looking as good as these other people. And so what I found to be really true when I was doing my deep dive study of self-confidence was that confidence has nothing to do with what you have externally. It has nothing to do with how much money you have in the bank or what you look like on the outside. It has everything to do with who you are on the inside, meaning your thoughts about yourself, your beliefs about yourself. And I started testing this. I was 50 pounds heavier than I am now, and I was broke at a time, even after finishing medical school, because I still had to take boards. I still had to start training. I had hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt in medical student loans. And so I started testing out, hey, what if I just believed or chose to, fake it till you make it type of thing, that I was confident? What if I talked as if I had a lot of money, or if I looked a certain way? Or what if I just spoke to people as if I was super confident, right? Regardless of what I had or how I looked. And it really worked because I would see the way that I would respond to myself and the way people would respond to me. And I realized that at the end of the day, no one really cared about how much money I had or how I looked. They cared about the energy that I brought to them. They cared about, how present I was with them, how I spoke to them. And, they cared about what I thought about myself. Because, you can, when you start to do the work of really loving yourself, taking care of yourself, and believing in who you are as a man or a woman, and focusing on all the positives you have, and focusing on all the struggles you may have overcome, and that makes you such a strong, amazing person. That's when you start to really build that self-confidence. And self-confidence also comes from practicing it. And so this is something I still do daily in my life. And I know, even the people we look at who we believe are really confident, they also have days where they feel afraid or they don't feel so confident, right? They have their good days and bad days. And I think it's the daily practice that allows them to perform at such a high level and allows them to be so self-confident and allows us to see them as so confident as well. And so I think it has nothing to do with what you have externally. It has everything to do with what you believe and think about yourself. Even today, there's times where, I'll be in a situation, I'll be in a meeting with, quote unquote, really big people and stuff like that. But when I mentally put myself in a space of, you know what, I'm a human just like they are, right? And the amount of money they have or the way they look versus the way I look or anything else, those are all external things. What really matters is what I choose to believe about myself and how I show up at this meeting, right? And when I do that, when I step into like, what's great about me, right? Like what positive attributes do I have, right? Like what can I offer from my brain and my heart, not from my bank account or from my physical appearance? That's what people are interested in. And I've seen in my own life, like I said, without having the money or, even being out of shape and stuff, I've seen how I've gotten through to so many people, and I've been able to help them increase their self-confidence. And I've been able to make so many leaps and bounds in my own life in terms of things I want recently, just because of, building that confident mindset from the inside and then allowing it to manifest from the outside.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much. And I want to ask, in continuation really to what we were saying earlier, about your big change of direction and career from spending all this time, I think it's 9 years, isn't it, to be a medical doctor in USA, plus hundreds of thousands of dollars, I suppose, in student debt. So your future seemed to be very specific, carved in stone, and then you decided to take a big change in your career, follow what your heart was telling you to shift it and go into the knowledge broker profession. So I wanted to ask, first of all, what is a knowledge broker from your point of view? How would you define that?
Yeah, I think the knowledge broker term is so amazing because it basically is someone who has knowledge from their own experiences in life, or someone who has knowledge or they've gotten knowledge from an expert that they really are dying to share with the rest of the world because they know it can really help them because it helped themselves. And so a knowledge broker is someone who's willing to take that knowledge and they're willing to share it with the world, as in their own unique ways with their own unique flavor, because the point and goal is to be able to serve others in the way that we want to serve them, to be able to help them create results in specific areas of their life, be it their health, their wealth, their relationships, and really be able to add value to them so they can improve their life. At the same time, the benefit of that is that not only are you doing what you love, you're not only sharing knowledge that can help people, but you're going to make a ton of money in the process too. And you can have the income and the impact that you really want to make in the world.
That's brilliant. And how did the knowledge business blueprint help you personally, Wasi? In what ways?
It was life-changing because, like I said, for the past few years, I was kind of going back and forth between, this confusion land of, what should I do, what should I not do? But I think the Knowledge Broker Blueprint, the program itself, the way Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi have laid it out, is so beautifully done. It's the best course that I've ever taken in my life. And it's one of the few courses that I actually finished. And I was able to take action on it because they both teach us all the beliefs and mindset hacks and then also the marketing hacks. And, both of those go hand in hand. Even for the students that I coach, it's mindset and marketing that I really go in on, because you can't teach one without the other if you really want to be successful in business or, even in any other area of your life, really. And so for me, it was amazing because I was able to see really fast results. It allowed me to really, affirm the beliefs that I wanted to create about myself, the results I wanted to get other people, the results I wanted to get myself financially. And I was able to just take action steps daily, weekly. And once I started doing that, I started, again, building that self-confidence within myself, building the confidence that I could really help people in a powerful way. And that's when things really started to take off. And they've taken off so quickly. But at the same time, it's like when people ask me this question, like, yeah, I've had super fast results the past few months. And I kind of feel like I'm being pulled and dragged and I'm trying to keep up. But it's this amazing kind of problem to have, because I feel like for the past 4 years, I've been visualizing and writing down these big audacious goals. And now that they're finally happening, it's like, oh yeah, that was expected. Like I knew that was going to happen, right? Or like I wanted this to happen. So it's, in a way, it's kind of, it's amazing, because it's like, okay, well, I knew this was going to happen. So it's like a really positive way to kind of come full circle. But at the same time, it's also really surprising and shocking. And it comes with all those negative, all those positive emotions as well, which sometimes is also anxiety provoking, or, you know, I would call it an identity shift, because when your life is changing so quickly and you're producing these amazing results, you really have to learn to adapt and adjust daily, weekly, right? And I think it's a beautiful thing, because that's how we evolve. That's how we grow as human beings. Most of us are afraid of changing. I am too. All of us, but it's human nature. We're afraid of change because we're not designed to constantly change. We're designed to stay comfortable, right? Our primitive brain wants us to stay in the same place. It wants us to stay in the cave, or wants us to stay in our living room on the couch watching Netflix. To put ourselves out there and to continue to grow and help others and help ourselves is a scary thing in the beginning. But what's on the other side of that is what makes it all worth it. And I think when we continuously, have the belief and then take action from that belief, we start to taste that success that's on the other side. And that's what gets us to really just make that quick progression. And that's exactly what's happened with me. And I'm just so incredibly grateful and so excited about everything else that's to come.
Thank you. That's fantastic. And you reminded me of that phrase that it takes years to become an overnight success. So it's not, people might see the rapid success that you had over the last few months, but it is those years of preparation and, I suppose, frustration and other challenges that build your character to the person that can handle that. Because if that success was given to someone that was not ready for it, they probably wouldn't know what to do with it. They would lose it very quickly.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, totally agree.
Wasi, I want to ask you about, because you mentioned the belief, and it is something that I know that you're a big believer in God, because I've seen some things you write, like the grace of God, all praises to God. And the one I liked very much, and that's what I want to ask you, is I'll quote you now. You've written our God-given ability to create our reality.
Yeah.
So I know that a few months ago, you set yourself the intention and the belief to meet Dean Graziosi, which is one of the two tutors of the course, to meet him in person, and not just to meet him like a 2-second handshake, to really spend time with him and get him to know you. And you actually manifested that last month. It was 1 or 2 months ago, and a big congratulations. I wanted to ask, many things really regarding that, but I want to start with the belief. You mentioned the term impossible belief and faith. So I want you to share with us the way that you work that out from the belief into the process.
Yeah, so great question. Thank you so much for everything you said. Yeah, it's been a humbling experience, and it's been magical as well, because I feel like I've been able to become an example of what's possible. And I feel like I can now teach people what I've always believed in, what I've learned from other experts as well. And now it's manifesting in my own life. And so one of the statements I made, I think it was around July of 2019, was that I'm going to meet Dean Graziosi this year. Right. And I thought that was freaking ridiculous. I was like, there's like in my brain gave me reasons right away. after I said that, like, it's not going to happen. You're crazy. Like, stop dreaming big. This is ridiculous, right? So my brain gave me 21 million reasons why it's not going to happen. And here's the thing with believing anything is what I tell everyone to do, and what I want to tell your listeners to do is think about that impossible belief or that impossible goal you have, and think it and then say it out loud, right? After you say it out loud, write it down. So what I do is I write them down, and I have a journal where I write down all my impossible goals, my beliefs, like even like the big ones that, if anyone were to find my journal, they would literally laugh, right? Like that's how big they should be, right? And so it's important to have that because it's important to constantly push yourself. I think that, progress is what really makes us happy and fulfilled as human beings. And so it's great to give yourself realistic timelines to reach those big goals. But I'm never going to be the type of person who's like, yeah, you shouldn't dream that big, or you should be more realistic. Like, that's not who I am, right? And I always encourage people to dream as big as they can. And so for one of those dreams was actually meeting Dean Graziosi, but it wasn't just at a conference or seminar for 30 seconds with an autograph. I visualized, like you said, him actually getting to know me. I had no idea how that was going to happen because at the time, there was no such thing as a success story award, or like nothing had been announced. I had no idea how that was going to happen. But when I made the belief and I made the intention, I thought, okay, well, if I believe in this 1%, just 1% for now, that's enough for me to get started in believing in it, right? And now I just have to believe in it hard. And that's a concept that I also love teaching my students is, when you can start to believe in something just 1%, and then practice believing it every single day. And that's called believing in something hard. It's like when you're choosing to believe in something impossible, when you know that there's no evidence for it to happen or exist, but you choose to believe in it anyway, that's when the magic happens. And so I continued to believe in this impossible goal, and from 1% it went to 5%, 10%, 15%. And what happened is that my brain started to come up with ideas and ways for me to get closer and closer to that goal. I didn't realize, like, a lot of the things that I was doing, a lot of the value that I was adding to the world at the time through my content or helping other people, I wasn't doing it for the sake of meeting him, but because subconsciously I programmed that impossible belief in my mind, and I worked on believing in it hard whenever I remembered, it got me to take the actions necessary to get me closer and closer to that coming true. And so I feel like, just everything I did from that point was fueled by that impossible belief that I'd created. And so it got me into a position where when the success story competition was announced, honestly, I wasn't even going to apply for it because I was so focused on other things in my life. But I was reached out by their team and they wanted to interview me for it. And so I was super honored, super excited. And after I did that, I went ahead and submitted my video for the competition. And as you may know, there were over 600 people, and then they narrowed it down to 50, then 20, then they picked 5 winners from all around the world. And I was one of the winners, and that was just one of the best days of my life. And I heard, Dean Graziosi say my name online. It was just it was so surreal to say, like, they're going to fly me down to Scottsdale, Arizona, and I'm going to be with him and, get to go to his house and, see his crew, his family, sit there, do an interview with him that's going to be filmed and it's going to be shown to, millions of other people around the world to show people how the process of the program that him and Tony have come up with has changed so many lives, including mine. And so it was just so surreal to watch everything happen because I've been studying the concept of, having faith in God, having faith in yourself, setting impossible beliefs, believing hard in them, and then taking actions from those beliefs, and then watching it manifest. I've been studying that for, I think, the past 2 years, really hard. And when I say study, I mean listening to a podcast while I'm driving. Or, if I had the choice of watching a movie on Netflix or a YouTube video on personal development, it would be a YouTube video on personal development and beliefs and manifestation and entrepreneurship. And so it was just something that would always suck me in. And I feel like finally being able to apply it over the last few months has really allowed me to see the own results in my life. And that's what really got me, I think, to, eventually meet him and go to his house and have the interview. And so it's just so amazing for me to look back at my own life, my own brain, like this God-given brain that we have. And when we talk about God, for me, God is number one. And I respect everyone's spiritual and religious beliefs, but for me, I believe that he has given us this amazing tool, which is our brain. And, I believe that he's infinite intelligence. And so if our brain and we are from him, we have the ability to literally create anything we want in this world. Sometimes I look around at the house I'm in, I look at the windows and the roads and streets and internet and iPhone, and I'm like, all of this stuff was created by man, by our brains, right? I mean, look where we started and look where we are now.
Yes.
These are our God-given tools, and God knows what we're going to create in the future, right? I mean, we think this is it, but we have no idea what else is coming, because 200 years ago, there weren't cars, there weren't planes, and look at what we have now, right? And so I can't even imagine what we're going to develop in the next 50, 100 years. And I think that's what's so amazing about our minds. And so when we take ownership that our brain is our most powerful God-given tool and that we can create anything from that, I think that's when we're really excited about doing the impossible. That's when we're going to be fueled up to create those impossible beliefs and then take action from that belief and then manifest it in the real world.
So you said you started with 1% belief, and then gradually you went to 5%, 15%. And that's exactly what I want to ask you. How do you go from 1% to 5%? Was there any particular technique that you were using? Was it bringing your mind back to the result that you wanted in terms of visualizing, or share that with us, please?
Yeah, so there's a few different ways that you can do it. Honestly, one of the ways that I did it for this whole experience was really visualizing it. And so I do a lot of visualization in my life. It's an exercise I call future self. And so I imagine myself 10 years from now, 5 years from now, at the pinnacle of, this life I want to have, this epic life that I have, the man I am, the empire I have, the business I have, the relationships, the health, all of that stuff. And so that's a whole practice I can get into at another time if you want to, but visualization is a big part of it. And so for meeting Dean Graziosi, for example, I would visualize meeting him wanting to get to know me, us hitting it off, having a great conversation. It's not something that I think I did every single day if I actually were to look back at it, but it's something that I did often. And I feel like because I programmed that impossible belief subconsciously in my brain, I said it out loud a few times throughout the months. I felt like it just became easier and easier for me to believe. Now, what I recommend people, and something that I actually do daily in my life now, is to write down those beliefs daily if you can, because I did write down those beliefs a few times, and I feel like if I had written them down daily, it probably would have happened even faster, right? Who knows? But I feel like that's just a great way to really cement those beliefs in our brains. And so a practice I recommend to all my students, and something I do now for my impossible goals, is I write down what that impossible goal or what that impossible belief is every single morning, right? Every single morning. And there's so many things. I mean, my business goals for the last few months, right? I've had these big audacious financial goals and the number of people that I want to help. And I've exceeded those targets because I've been writing them down every single morning. And some mornings I feel like crap, and I feel like I'm not going to have any good results. And I know a lot of you can relate. I feel confused. I feel like, what the heck am I doing? Right? Why do I think that I can do all this stuff, right? And you have those days, but then you whip out your journal, you write it down anyway. And just the action of you writing it down, like something about pen and paper, right? I write it down on a journal, and then reading it back to yourself and allowing yourself to really, breathe it in, take it in, Feelings are all vibrations in our body. And so allowing yourself to feel the emotion that's generated from that belief is really important, because then it gets you to fuel the action that you're going to take. Yeah. And I think without that, a lot of people just try to start an action. Like, let me just start to take the action. The problem with that is that if you take the action without working on the thoughts and the feelings first, you're going to take one action, two actions, and then the first time it doesn't work out, it's going to be so easy for you to quit, right? And I see people doing that all the time. They're so, they're just willing to give up on their dreams so quickly because it didn't work the 5th time or 10th time they tried. And it's because they haven't practiced believing hard enough. They haven't practiced, taking those thoughts, beliefs. They haven't generating feelings in their body that will get them to drive those actions from a place of excitement and confidence and courage and abundance. I think that's very, very important. And so, practically speaking, I'd say if someone can start to visualize daily what that impossible goal is, like seeing themselves doing it, and then also writing it down every single morning in their journal, if they can do those two things, It's like a genie in a bottle, literally. You can make any wish you want. And I'm not God, but I can promise you, if you do believe in him and you believe in, everything that I'm telling you, this will work, right? It's working in my life, and I can't think of an easier way to manifest things that you want.
Fantastic. So do you take time off to do the visualization as a practice, or do you do it while you do other things? I mean, do you...
I do it. Yeah, that's a great question. So in the past, I'd say a couple of years ago, I used to actually do meditation for about 15 minutes in the morning.
Yes.
And I want to start doing that again, as we're recording this year, because I think it's really, really important to do that. But even though I don't have I pray. When I pray, I do visualize. But aside from that, I visualize throughout the day. And so a lot of times it'll be for a minute while I'm driving, or it'll be even for a few minutes in between, like while I'm working, sometimes it'll be while I'm, on the treadmill, and the amazing thing is that it's challenging in the beginning for our brains to visualize ourselves in a better or, in a different place than we are now. And sometimes it's kind of painful, it's uncomfortable. And I experienced this in my own life, especially over the last year, that there were times where I didn't want to visualize because I thought, it's so much easier for me to just, go have a cheeseburger and watch Netflix, right? Like I don't want to visualize, right? Like, because there's this disconnect with where I am now and where I want to be. And sometimes it's an uncomfortable thing for us to feel. And so, but I knew that, this is one of the things that I've heard from someone I really, really admire, is that discomfort is the currency to our dreams. I love that line because I think it's so true. It's like when we get comfortable with being uncomfortable, that's when the magic starts to happen, because that's how we grow and that's how we get to the next best place in our journey. And so, visualizing is something that I try to do constantly. And although it started off being more uncomfortable, it's gotten more and more. It started off being uncomfortable. Now it's very comfortable. Right? It's gotten to the point where, I kind of, if I don't feel that discomfort, I kind of challenge myself to feel it, because I want to continue to push myself. I reached a point now in my life, and I hope, I continue to, where, stagnation for me is just intolerable. I have to continuously grow, and that means visualizing every single day. Now, it doesn't mean, and this is a big point I want to make to your listeners, it doesn't mean that the life I have now is not good. It doesn't mean that the life I have now I'm not going to be grateful for, right? I think that we have to live in this moment, be super grateful for what we have now, but then know that, hey, next year can be even better than this, right? Like this is as good as it gets right now with whatever circumstances I have, with wherever I am. I can choose to think the way I want to think. I can choose to be grateful, and I can still have those big dreams. I can still visualize being in a better place next month or next year than I am now. It's just going to get better and better, right? I think that's a very, very important concept it was for me to learn, I think for a lot of other people, because a lot of times people will just want to visualize something because they believe once they get there that their life will be perfect and they'll never have problems and they'll be happy 100% of the time, right? And so it's not about you trying to escape your current reality. It's just about you trying to evolve and grow and become bigger and better. And I think it should just be a fun thing, right? It should come from a place of abundance and this magical experience that you want to have, rather than I have to hustle and claw my way there. And I think when you visualize with that mindset, it makes the process more fun, and it's going to make the chances of you actually manifesting it so much greater.
That's fantastic. Thank you. I understand it in the sense that you consciously bring your attention or your focus into the result that you want to achieve, and doing that throughout the day in different times of the day, which is something that personally, because I will share with you that I had a similar desire or intention to go and meet Dean with that competition. So I recorded the best video I could, I sent it over, and then I did visualization. However, what I did, and I think that's the difference, was that I would set aside, let's say 10 minutes at the end of the day or whenever, and close my eyes and do it like that and bring it to mind. But it was only a specific time during the day. Throughout the rest of the day, my mind was completely undisciplined in that sense. So thank you for this. It's very informative, enlightening, I would say.
Yeah, you're welcome.
What was your biggest takeaway then from your meeting one-to-one with Dean Graziosi?
There were so many things I learned. I feel like sometimes we learn from the people we really respect or our teachers without them having to say anything, right? I think just being around their presence. I'm a very observant person. I'm sure a lot of your listeners are too. We observe so many things, and they may not realize that we're learning from them in that moment, but we are. And so there were so many incredible things I saw. I mean, just the environment in his household, how his wife Lisa came to greet all of us in the beginning, and it was such a peaceful environment with his kids there and everything else. And a lot of times we assume that people who've made it really big are constantly stressed or constantly busy. But one of the things I loved stepping into his humongous mansion was that everything was just so peaceful and serene, and everyone was so calm and happy. And I really, really, loved that. And I learned a lot that, you don't, if you're doing big things in the world or, helping a lot of people or having a lot of income, it doesn't mean that you have to be frantic and have a stressful environment, right? It can be the exact opposite. And that's something that I think I really got from being in Dean's house and having that whole experience that maybe he doesn't even realize. And that was a beautiful thing for me to learn. Another big thing that he told me off camera was that, there's going to be times where in this journey, and this is for all the listeners, wherever you are, whether you're starting from scratch or you've made a little progress, is that there's going to be times where you make some progress and then you're going to hit roadblocks, right? Or let's say you launch something and there's a few people who bought it, it helped them, they got results, and then you do a second launch and no one buys, right? Or you do a seminar and let's say you were expecting 50 people to show up, but only 2 people showed up, right? And maybe like your last seminar, 10 people showed up. So like, how did it decrease this time? And so he told me that regardless of what happens throughout the journey, to keep your eye on the long game. And that's something I really learned from him and Tony Robbins as well is, like visualizing your end goal, like where you want to steer your ship, being very, very clear with that and not letting the small failures get in the way because it's going to happen, right? It happens to him. It happens to Tony Robbins. It happens to so many people all the time. And obviously, they've been in the industries that they're in for decades. And so they have so much experience and wisdom now. But for people like you and I and your listeners who are starting or kind of, at the beginning of their journey, it's important for us to remember that there's going to be times where things don't work out the way you wanted. You're going to take action and it may not provide a result. But if you really are thinking about that long-term goal, right? Like 1 year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, then these little things, these little, blips in the road and failures aren't going to deter you because your belief and your goals are going to be so much bigger than any small loss or failure that you have along the way. And that's something that he really told me while we were off camera. And I totally believe in every single thing he said. And I took it to heart because it's really helped me even since I've met him, because obviously, as an entrepreneur myself, there are so many things that I do that work, that are great and amazing and successful, and so many things I do that don't work. And the beauty of it is that you learn either way, right? When something works, you know what to do more of. And when something doesn't work, you just learn faster what not to do and how to fix it and how to change it. It's important to get curious and ask questions like, why didn't this work? Or how could I improve this? Or how could I ask people, like, what was missing from this, right? And so it's a beautiful way to really look at your whole journey of, being an entrepreneur, a knowledge broker. And that's one of the things that I really took away from him. Of course, there were so many other things, but I think another thing that I'll mention here is the energy that he brings when he speaks to people is electric, right? I mean, like when his green eyes like pierce into your soul when he's looking at you, it's amazing, right? And he's such an intelligent man. I think, I think me seeing him in person, I already knew he was intelligent, but when we were in person, I could tell like he's able to keep track of like 5 or 10, 15 different things going on in the room at the same time. And obviously he's developed that by practicing and by becoming that person, becoming that man. And it's so inspiring for me. But his energy levels was, I think the energy he's able to bring is what allows him to really inspire people to have those beliefs and take the actions. And that's the kind of energy that I love being around. And I think energy is something that, a lot of people just want to be around, when it's good energy, when it's positive and it's inspiring, right? I think, as a human species, we're all tribal. So we're always looking for that human connection with other people. And when we can be around people who can kind of give us that infectious positive energy, we just want to be around them more and more and more and learn from them. And that's definitely something he had, and something I really appreciated getting from him.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Wasi, do you want to tell us about your mastermind program and your next career steps now that you have, you are representing Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi?
Yeah, there's so many things going on right now. So, I mean, we're recording this as of January 2020, and there's been so many developments and so many changes happening also with, the direction that I'm going to be taking things with my business, and being a speaker and trainer to represent Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi on stages and workshops. And so right now we're kind of just in talks about everything, and we're developing everything right now. Okay. So I'm not allowed to say too much, but I will say that I'm super excited. And I know that, 2020 and beyond, whenever people listen to this, it's just going to be, my focus is just, how do I serve people the most? How do I serve the people that I'm working with, and also the clients that I'm going to serve, within the company or outside of it. How do I serve them the most? How do I add the most value to them? Because one thing I know that I've noticed in my own life is, the more value that I offer to people, the more value I get back. And that comes in two forms. One of the forms is fulfillment on the inside at a soul level. And the other form is money, it's income, right? And both of those are beautiful things. And so it's inspiring for me to help other people get incredible results in their life. And I really want to make this year all about that. Just serving at the highest level and willing to do whatever it takes, traveling and, coming up with ideas and, putting my head down and getting to work. I really want to do that. I really want to see how I can add value to other people, whether it's them or anyone else. And I'm just super, super excited about the direction that things are going in. And, for all other, I guess, updates, announcements, if the listeners will probably, you guys will probably hear about them soon enough. But I'm just super excited to have the opportunity to serve in this way. And, I've set really big, audacious goals for this year too. I've set impossible goals for this year. And I'm so excited for every single one of them coming true. And I'm actually it's funny because I've given myself realistic timelines, but at the same time, sometimes I challenge myself it'd be awesome to do that even a month sooner than I thought, or 2 months sooner. And so I'm kind of having fun challenging myself, even with my impossible goals and beliefs now. And so I'm super excited, and I can't wait to just serve at the highest level and give the world whatever I have and see what they do with it.
Fantastic. I mean, my mind is blown away by what you're saying. Thank you. And I'm sure that these audacious goals that you've set, you have the framework and the mindset to really make them happen. Wasi, let me ask you some quick fire questions as well, if that's all right.
Yeah, let's do it.
So let's say you could go back and meet your 20-year-old self. What's the one piece of advice you would give him?
Ooh, that's a good one. I would give him 100. But if I were to choose one, it would be to love yourself. To stop caring what other people think about you. You're perfect the way you are. You're an imperfectly perfect human being, and that God loves you, and that you're here on this planet for a reason. And to just spend more time exploring yourself and the inside of who you are as a man, and work on improving the opinion of yourself, and not trying to win the approval of other people or trying to get other people to have a positive opinion about you. It's so much more important for you to develop a positive opinion about yourself and then let everyone else follow, rather than vice versa. And I think a lot of people in their 20s, will spend most of their 20s doing that, and even after their 20s. And so that's definitely something I would tell him. And I think that would really help with all areas of life. Yeah.
Fantastic. Let me ask another quick fire hypothetical then one. If you had a magic wand and you could change something in the world as it is today, what would you change?
Ooh, that's a good one too, because there's so many things that I want to change. But I think the main one would be making sure that every single human being has access to food, water, and shelter. I know those are three things, but one of the big goals I have in the future for myself is getting involved in a way where I can help create with whatever organizations it is, just these safe havens for war refugees, people that have nowhere to go and their houses or their communities have been destroyed and they don't have food and water, giving them places, whether it's like countries or islands, wherever it is for them to live on. And these are like, I've actually never said this before in the podcast, but these are really big goals I have for like the future. It's because I think like that's where it begins. It's just the basic necessities. Water has become such a big problem in the world, and then access to food as well. So I guess, if there's one thing, if I had a magic wand and I could change something, I would just start at the basics, which is just making sure that every human being has just enough food and a little bit of water and just a roof over their head to start with, right? And then after that comes everything else. So that would truly be my heart's desire if I could do something today.
Huge respect for that. It's so important. What does personal development mean to you?
Special development, like personal development, right?
Personal development.
Personal development. Okay, yeah. So personal development means to me, that's a really good question. I think it means that you're constantly trying to improve yourself from a place of acceptance now for who you are, and from a place of, constantly wanting to evolve and grow. I think that, without talking too much about spirituality, I think that, this whole journey, this whole life that we're given here on this planet, I think one of the purposes of it is obviously, to get closer to God and to worship Him. But aside from that, within that really is for us to evolve as human beings and for us to, really show ourselves what we're capable of and the potential that we have, and to serve ourselves and humanity in the best way possible. And so personal development for me is really, trying to just every single day, every single week and month, trying to improve yourself, where you can look back a month ago and say, you know what, I'm in a better place now than I was a month ago. And it doesn't always have to be a linear line. I think a lot of people get really messed up and get really discouraged when they take 3 steps forward and 1 step back. I'm like, hey, I'm all in for the 3 steps forward, 1 step back, because that's still a positive 2 steps, right? And my life has always been that way, and it probably still will be that way because we're human. We're not angels. We're not perfect. And so I think constant progression is very, very important. And personal development is really, like I said, about when you asked me about what would I tell my 20-year-old self, it's focusing inward, right? Because I think it's so important for us to really think about the people that we want to be and the people who we are now, like who we are now, and deciding who we want to be now, and deciding who we want to be in the future. And then what are we going to do to get there, right? There are books we can read, there's podcasts, there's YouTube videos, there's teachers, coaches, mentors that we can work with to personally develop ourselves constantly. And so I keep emphasizing this, but it's important to learn to respect and love and accept yourself now for who you are, where you are in life, and then to continuously want to improve, not because you're not good enough now, just because the point of us being here is for us to continuously improve and grow and evolve so that we can, show ourselves what's possible, look back at our life and say, you know what, like I did this, right? Like I was able to become this person, and I was able to believe it, and I was able to learn, and I was able to personally develop myself and evolve into this amazing person. I think that's where we all want to be when we're in our deathbeds, how many decades from now. We want to be able to look back and know that we really gave it our all. And another thing I'll say here is that it's really about, giving yourself enough time to make those slow progressions. There's no such thing as an overnight success. So it's giving yourself weekly goals, monthly goals, yearly goals, right? And allowing yourself to mess up along the way, but continuing to constantly progress is very, very important.
Fantastic. Thank you. Wasi, is there anything you were hoping I'd asked you and I missed it completely?
No, I think you've asked excellent questions. I mean, if I could say so myself, I think this is an excellent interview. I'm
Um,
excited for people to listen to it, and I really hope that they get something out of it.
Absolutely. How can people connect with you? Where would you direct them?
I'd say there's websites and so many things are changing right now for me. So I'd say the best way for listeners in the future as well would be if they look me up on Facebook.
Okay.
So it's just Wasi Saleem. Actually, my Facebook name now is Dr. Wasi Saleem. So it's DRWASI and then last name Saleem. That's SALEEM as in money. So if they just look me up on Facebook, they'll find a website, they'll find a place they can go to, they'll find, maybe private Facebook groups I have that they can join, where they can get my free content, learn more about the things that I offer and, things that I teach. And so I'd say Facebook for now is probably the best place.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for being here with me, Wasi. Thank you, brother. I mean, from my heart, I really appreciate it. Any parting words? Anything you'd like to finish with?
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge you because I've seen your growth and progression too, my friend, and you've been doing so amazing. And you're such an excellent interviewer. The questions you asked me and you listened really well. You allowed me to answer, and I just want to acknowledge you for doing the work that you're doing, because I know you're helping tons of people too, and this is just the beginning for you. So I'm super grateful to have connected with you and that we've become friends. And I genuinely mean that, and I look forward to all the journeys that we can also have together in the future, and that hopefully all of your listeners and all of us can have together. So thank you for having me on here. Super grateful.
I'm very grateful as well. Thank you very much. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. Lots of love.
Thank you very much for listening. Please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or Stitcher. And until next time, stand out, don't fit in.